Alrighty then. Hello, worms. It's me and my. Oh my god, I got dandruff. My scalp dries out a lot. I hope you can't see it. Oh no, let's call it a snow effect. Let's call it something I've added in Adobe. Right. Well, ADHD. Let's get back on topic a minute. There's two kind of stories that I want to combine into one just here. Oh, by the way, I should introduce myself. I'm Mand, the human tumble dryer. If you haven't subscribed already, and you're new to this because I've put a famous name in the description box, and who the hell is this fat idiot talking about somebody? So, yeah, you probably don't know me from Adam. Actually, I'm going to talk about religion, so maybe not Adam then. But you don't know me from Adam and Steve. How's that? Let's get a little bit more secular. Right, so here I am back in the Mand cave. Jeez, my double chin. Oh man, I drink too much wine. Cheers. Lovely. So first of all, I'll get onto the content creator I want to talk about later, but I wanted to talk about quite a personal story to me. Now, there's still the jury's still out on whether ADHD is a a legitimate condition, disease, call it what you like. It's disorder. It's a disorder. That's what the D stands for. The D at the end. So I had to get this out because it happened to me like a couple of weeks ago, and the reason that I haven't gone back to see this particular member of the family, it's in-laws. Now, they're in their 80s, and I've kind of learned to tune a lot of what they say out, because you don't want to get into an argument with an 80-year-old. I don't know whether it's just down to respect or just the fact that I'm not going to win, but I just kind of like smile and nod and stuff like that, which is probably perpetuating their poisonous ideas in the first place. But life's too short, and they probably haven't got a lot left to live. And I know people who are in their 80s who have made enemies of family because of shit that's happened, and I'm just thinking that it's not too late to reconcile. So I don't want to cause any drama to someone whose maybe mental faculties are kind of fading away and are probably worse than mine. But well, I was around there for dinner a couple of weeks ago, and this is the reason I don't go around for their dinner very often. I went round there, and we were having a chat and everything, and she brought up my ADHD, not me, and I don't want to sort of harp on about it. And I'm kind of mentioning like, other people in the family have got different things going on and that, and she said, "Oh, I understand about it now." And I was like, "Oh, that's good." She said, and then she came out with this right clanger, and I was just like, I've got to bite my lip, I've got to bite my tongue, I can't say, no, this isn't a personal thing, I'm not going to take it personally, it's just ignorance. And she said, "Oh, when we first met you didn't have ADHD." And I said, "Well, no, I didn't get diagnosed with it, but I did have it." And I thought, well, no, I'm not going to carry on with this argument, because clearly this is boomer logic, and you can't argue with boomer logic, I'm afraid. I know, I'm in my 50s, and I just want to go back to university and learn things. I want to go and learn things so that I don't end up stagnant. And another thing she told me is that I shouldn't go back to university because I'm too old. It's like, no, mate, I don't want to end up like a narrow-minded bigot. Thank you very much. But anyway, but getting diagnosed with something doesn't mean that you only just got it, right? It's not like cancer. A neurological condition is something that you're born with, or maybe you develop it as a result of head trauma or something like that. But I got diagnosed with it after lots of trips to the doctor about different mental health conditions and things like that. But one of the things that they do in the assessment is that they talk to family members, and they'd look at school records. Now, I was between moving houses at the time, so all of the stuff like my school reports and that they would have looked at were all put away. So I dragged my poor sister along, and of course she could relate to, the psychologist about all the stuff problems I had growing up, and the behavioural stuff that I had growing up and stuff like that. So it wasn't the fact that I'd only just got it, it was the fact I'd always got it and I'd only just been diagnosed, which is really important. Because I'm coming on to the next plot, the next part of the plot now, as I'm watching a Jimmy Snow video, and I'm not Stan, right? I mean, I've had my issues with him in the past as a content creator, and and I've posted some videos about him before and realised I was probably wrong, but in this particular one, he's absolutely right, and there's a few other problematic things that he drops in there, but most of all, he's right. And the thing he's right about is people who have got neurological disorders are born with them, they grow up with them, and because they're untreated, it causes all sorts of problems with trauma and your parents thinking that you're just bad and evil and whatever. It's probably 10 times worse for someone who's got a religious upbringing like he does. But the point of him bringing this up was because Pastor Locke, who's just the most slimiest evil git in the whole world. Sorry, but I don't truck with religion. There's a whole rabbit hole of judgment and presumed moral failings that have caused so much problem, so much pain to people that I don't even want to get into that. That's a long discussion. But the fact is that people do have these things, and they are diagnosed with them. And so, Jimmy was diagnosed last year with autism, and I'm afraid I do agree with him. The fact that self-diagnosis is it can be problematic. I mean, you can't just kind of like go onto social media and say I've got this, I've got that, because what it does is then if the boomers do see it, or young people see it and get the wrong impression, or it can cause so much damage because then if you're kind of I'm not going to say faking it, but if you're kind of trying to sort of fit in with a certain kind of behavioural trait, and then passing it off as a psychological condition, you're actually cheapening it for the people who actually have had a serious diagnosis, and the knock-on effect of that is that then you're not believed, and people like Pastor Locke who are perpetuating this, because clearly most of the people who will support him are probably boomers who probably never believed in ADHD or autism or anything like that. And Pastor Locke is saying that people with ADHD are possessed by the devil. Now, I remember when I was a kid and people treated me like I was like the devil incarnate, but it wasn't like I was doing things deliberately. There's a difference. And I mean, I don't believe in the devil anyway, but there are people who are bad and they do it deliberately, and then there are people who are neurodiverse and they do things that are bad, but they don't know what they're doing. And I'm not saying this is like a get out of jail free card or anything like that, because there's a lot of people who use the excuse of like mental illness to get away with things like murder and various different atrocities, and that's another whole ballpark in itself. But the fact that somebody with a huge public platform who's a preacher and that is still going on about these behaviours being moral failings is really disappointing. I don't know if you've seen my my other video on the Adcast, where it's basically just text and me talking, because I think it's good to have something. I've been watching a lot of YouTube content, and I think it's quite good to have something that people can listen to when they're in the car or when they're chopping vegetables or slitting people's throats. I know, I'm not psycho. But I just. So I decided to make it mostly audio. And when I did my research for it, one of the things that came up was that ADHD was seen as a moral failing. And I'm thinking, we don't really want to be dredging all this up again, in the 1700s, people there was certain professors and philosophers, doctors, or whatever it is, who recognised it was a failing. It was a biological failing, and there for some reason there was like a kind of like the Dark Ages took over, and maybe religion took over, and then it was seen as a moral failing. And I don't want to go back to those times. I don't want to go back to those times when people thought that epilepsy was, being possessed by the devil, and it's like the brain is a weird structure. We don't know a lot about it. We know more about it than we did before. We certainly know more about it than the people who wrote the Bible. And you can argue when the Bible was written, but, it's got to be at least, hundreds of years ago, probably the last kind of update. And so people like Greg Glock saying, oh, autism wasn't in the Bible. But as Jimmy pointed out, cancer's not in the Bible either. But if Pastor Locke's, one of Pastor Locke's relatives got cancer, he whipped them off to the local oncology department, and get it sorted. So it's an invisible disabilities have got a bad enough rap as it is, without people holding massive, I can't say wedges of power. That's a really bad adjective, isn't it? Not massive. Massive amounts of power. People who have got massive amounts of power and using that to demonise the mentally ill, the neurodiverse, and the disabled. I mean, we've had enough of it, really. Our representation in the media has gone down quite a lot over the last couple of years in favour of other protected characteristics. So that we don't really want people like that weighing in on things and making life so much worse. It's practically hate preaching. I mean, big surprise there, from that kind of evangelical preaching who hates gays, and of course they're going to hate the neurodiverse as well because they think we're all like possessed by demons. But the problem is it filters down, and it doesn't just filter down through the religious evangelical mob. It filters down to anyone who happens to be watching the television, or a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who says this isn't the real, that doesn't exist, blah de blah de blah. And then we come across my in-laws who belittle it as well, and they don't even go to church. So by kind of like a process of a sponge, a kind of like a sponge absorbing all of this bad information, and a process of osmosis where it kind of like travels, it's really making so much harm. And I've never agreed with a content creator as much as I've agreed with this particular content creator on this particular video. And I noticed, Jimmy, you're looking a little bit flushed there. I hope you're okay. You haven't got a fever or are just so angry that your face has gone bright red. Hope you're okay, mate. And thanks for bringing this up, because it really does speak to the idea of any deviation from the norm being a moral failure, where it really isn't. I mean, as Lady Gaga says, baby, I was born this way. So yeah, if there's any of my ADHD chums out there who are long-term listeners and watchers, well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry about my fingers, by the way. I've got through another stage of body focused repetitive behaviour. I feel a little bit of dry skin because of the weather. It's cold and everything, and the central heating's on. It's dried my skin out, and so I just start picking it because I don't like the feeling of rough skin. So I pick the rough skin off, and it's icky. It's horrible. But then I'm probably possessed by the devil. So that's it, isn't it? I am evil incarnate. So bye now, all you evil worms, and thank you for watching. And if you like what I do and want to carry on watching and looking at this silly face, please subscribe. It'd be great. Okay, thank you very much, and bye bye.